Good morning, fellas, and welcome back to Me Plays Games, where we play games. My name is Matt, and today I'm going to talk about how Pokemon Red and Blue can be beaten in 1 hour and 45 minutes. The current world record in the any percent glitchless category belongs to Hwangbro with a time of 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 5 seconds. We'll be going over the general route and strategies, but if you'd like to learn more, I suggest you check out top runners play the game, as well as commentary videos going over more specific strategies for individual battles. We'll leave links to some of those as well as other resources in the description. Shoutouts to the Pokemon Gen 1 through 3 Speedrunning Discord for helping me figure out how to tackle this script. We'll be taking a different approach for this one because going over every single detail of the world record would take absolutely forever. Plus, there's a lot of different strategies that the world record doesn't use. Also, shoutouts to Hwangbro for answering my questions about the run. For more speedrunning videos, subscribe to Me Plays Games, and be sure to show some of the top runners in this game some love as well. Share this video with a friend if you think they'd be interested. Alright, let's get started. The first choice you'll have to make is which starter to pick. Since we want to pick a Pokemon that'll get through the beginning of the game as fast as possible, there's only one good answer here: Squirtle. Squirtle learns the water-type move Bubble at level 8. Even though it only has 20 base power, it's still good enough to beat Brock's rock and ground types with 2 hits each, since they're both 4 times weak to water moves. You might be wondering why you shouldn't pick Bulbasaur. Grass moves are just as effective against Brock, so wouldn't that work too? Plus, he also would have an easy time against Misty. And the reason for not using Bulbasaur is that he doesn't learn an attacking grass type move until Vine Whip at level 13. Squirtle will be battling Brock at level 8, so there simply isn't time to level up Bulbasaur. On the way to Brock's gym, you can perform an RNG manipulation, or once again, RNG manip for short. By resetting the game, then performing a specific series of directional inputs and A presses, you can manipulate a level 4 male Nidoran into existence on Route 22, then a Pidgey on Route 2 to teach Fly to get around faster later on. There are 2 other manipulations that are used in this run, namely to eliminate most encounters in Mount Moon, and one in Lieutenant Surge's gym to control which trash cans have switches under them. Nidoran is going to be the Pokemon we use for every single battle moving forward. Nidoran evolves into Nidorino at level 16, then you can immediately evolve it into Nidoking with a Moonstone to get a fully evolved Pokemon before the second gym. Nidoking also has a diverse moveset. In this run alone, he'll get mileage out of Rock Slide, Thrash, Water Gun, Bubble Beam, Thunderbolt, Mega Punch, Earthquake, Horn Attack, and Horn Drill. In this route, runners use the Brock battle to get Nidoran up to a usable level, switch training it on Geodude and Onix to give it enough experience to get to level 8. Squirtle is doing all the battling, but Nidoran gets experience from just being on the field. Now we throw Squirtle in the trash. Nah, but in all seriousness, Squirtle is going to stay in the party because he can learn 2 required HMs, Surf and Strength. Before the Nidoking route was discovered, the main route for this game actually consisted of using Squirtle for the entire game and beating it with a Blastoise. The reason the Nidoking route is the only relevant one nowadays is because of boom strats, where you intentionally let Koga's wheezing explode on you to make Nidoking faint, then revive it with rare candies. Rare candies level you up once and let you revive a fainted Pokemon to extremely low health. By giving Nidoking 3 rare candies, he gained 10 HP from the level ups, which is actually the perfect amount of health because of a weird quirk in the game called Red Bar. Basically, whenever you're at very low health, a siren sound effect will constantly play, and while it does, you can make inputs and select moves and items during the opposing Pokemon's cry. As scary as it is, you want to have Red Bar whenever possible because it saves several minutes over the course of the nearly 2-hour run. You'll very rarely stop to heal at a Pokemon Center because you want to stay at low health whenever it's relatively safe to do so. Runners will go as long as 20 minutes without healing later on in the run. Another thing to note is the badge boost glitch. Fans of J-Rose 11 will know this well, but essentially certain gym badges will give all of your Pokemon a 12.5% boost to a specific stat. Now that Brock has been defeated, all of your Pokemon have slightly higher attack. By the time the game is over, you'll have badge boosts in all of your stats. The glitch here though is that whenever your stats are recalculated, all the badge boosts are reapplied. That means that from now on, for example, whenever you get hit by a move like Leer to lower your defense, your attack will be boosted again. These boosts will come in handy a couple of times throughout the run as well, and you'll also see it used in a lot of Gen 1 solo challenges. Another glitch that you might encounter is the 1 in 256 glitch. In short, every move in the game that has 100% accuracy actually has a very small chance to miss because of how the random number generator works. This is referred to as a Gen 1 miss, and fortunately, some inopportune misses can be played around with alternate strategies, so getting one isn't always the worst thing in the universe. Cerulean City is one of the few cities where you heal at the Pokemon Center, but that's also partly because of how the move Dig and the escape rope item work. Basically, they don't take take you to the last town you visited, but rather the last town where you healed at a Pokemon Center. We want to set Cerulean as our destination because we'll have to pass through it twice for the game's intended route anyway. Later on in the run, you'll heal at Celadon City, since that's another town you have to visit multiple times. There's a small glitch that you're allowed to take advantage of here in Cerulean City. Basically, if you talk to the guy working at the bike shop but don't buy the bike, text boxes will appear instantly until you open a menu, are presented with a yes/no box, heal at a Pokemon Center, or talk to the shop owner again. This saves a whopping 2 minutes, which is a massive time save. Runners will refresh the instant text whenever they return to Cerulean later on. Here's another small optimization that's worth pointing out. By talking directly to trainers, the battle will start faster compared to just walking by them, in which case they have to notice you, then walk over to you to initiate the fight. After fighting the rival on the SS Anne and Lieutenant Surge, then getting a bike, it's on to Rock Tunnel. Unlike later generations of Pokemon games, you're actually able to see where the cave's walls are, which makes it pretty easy to get through blind. On the other side, runners will head straight to Celadon City. Shopping spree! Welcome to the Celadon department store, where you can buy tons of stuff for your Pokemon and not a whole lot for yourself. Here you can buy a bunch of TMs for Nidoking, including Horn Drill. That one is especially important, and we'll get back to why in a second. You can also buy a Pokédoll, which will be used to sequence break the game later. Runners will also take the opportunity to buy some X items. These items can be used to raise your stats by one stage in battle, but X accuracy is especially powerful. In most Pokemon games, X accuracy raises your move's accuracy by 1 or 2 stages, but in the first 2 generations it makes it so that your moves will never miss, even bypassing the 1 in 256 glitch. This is especially powerful when you pair it with one-hit KO moves. Nidoking can learn Horn Drill, a normal type one-shot move. By pairing that with X accuracy, you can sweep through almost every single team in the game. To be clear, this isn't a glitch, but rather an intended mechanic with powerful side effects when you combine it with certain moves. There are a few things preventing this from being the only strategy in the run. For one, Horn Drill only has 5 power points, so you can only use it 5 times before restoring it. And there aren't that many power point restoring items to go around, so there will still be battles where you won't be using it. The other problem is that since you're spending so much of the run at low health, there are a lot of battles where you can't set up an X accuracy safely without risking getting knocked out. In these cases, you'll be going for other moves like Thunderbolt, Blizzard, and Earthquake. Actually, while we're on the subject, why can a Pokemon based on an indeterminate animal summon lightning and snow at will? I'm not complaining, Nidoking is my favorite Pokemon, but I feel like way fewer of them should know moves like Thunderbolt. After shopping, it's back to Lavender Town, where we're gonna do the sequence break I talked about earlier. In Pokemon Tower, there's a ghost that you normally need the Silph Scope to identify. You get the Silph Scope by finding the Team Rocket hideout under the Celadon game corner and defeating Giovanni. But since we have the Pokédoll, we can actually just make the ghost run away, skipping the need for the Silph Scope. Further upstairs, we meet Mr. Fuji and get the Poké Flute, which we'll be using later on to access Cycling Road, the fastest way to Fuchsia City. But first, we have to make it through Silph Co, one of the scariest parts of the run. I'm not gonna go into too much detail here, but basically you're at the mercy of coin flips here. If the Rocket Grunt or Giovanni attacks you while you set up, you lose, but if they don't, you win. Next, it's off to Fuchsia City, where we pick up the Surf and Strength HMs for Squirtle to use to help us through the late game. Like we mentioned earlier, runners use Boom Strats on Koga to get Nidoking to faint, then keep him at extremely low health for nearly the entire rest of the run, only healing out of Red Bar 2 more times towards the very end. After surfing to Cinnabar Island to get the Blizzard TM, it's time for a boss rush of sorts. The route here is to fight Erica, Blaine, and Sabrina in short order. Let's zoom in on Blaine's fight for a second. This one is pretty much impossible to lose because of what's known as good AI. Essentially, good AI refers to the fact that most trainers will always use a move of a type that's super effective against your active Pokemon if they have one. This even applies to status moves that don't do any damage. Blaine's first Pokemon, Growlithe, knows Agility, a Psychic type move that just raises its speed. Nidoking is a Poison type Pokemon, which means that he's weak to Psychic moves, but this one doesn't do any damage, so Growlithe is basically just running around in circles while we set up an X accuracy and impale him. Good AI will also come into play in some of the other upcoming fights. This is another reason Nidoking is so great for this run. Since he's a Poison type, any Pokemon that knows a Psychic type status move will spam it, as long as they don't have another move that he's weak to. This will come into play later as well. There are no trainers who have to fight in Victory Road, but there's another thing to point out here. Runners will use repels to prevent wild Pokemon encounters in grass and caves. Normally, there's a text box that appears whenever repels wear off, but if you use another one before the first one runs out, that text box won't appear. Anytime you can minimize either the number of text boxes that appear or the number of characters that are in them, runners will take that opportunity. That's also why the player character, rival, Squirtle, and Nidoking are all just named A. In the Elite Four, there's 2 strats you can use against the first member, Water and Ice Specialist Lorelei. The first more common strat is to deposit 2 of your HM Pokemon, then put Pidgey at the front of your party for the fight. Because of how the AI works, Lorelei's first Pokemon, Dugong, will always knock Pidgey out with an Aurora Beam, then it's guaranteed to use Rest on turn 2, which will fail since it's at full health. A riskier strat is known as Yo Lorelei, where you deposit all 3 of your HM Pokemon, leaving only Nidoking in the party. Because of how the AI works in this game, it's basically a coin flip if the run dies here or not. If Dugong uses Rest on turn 1, you win, and if he uses Aurora Beam, you lose. This saves about 8 seconds on the Hall of Fame screen because only 1 Pokemon is being inducted instead of 2. In the world record, Hwangbro goes for the coin flip and gets it, then horn drills the rest of her team. Bruno's the easiest fight, not a whole lot can go wrong here. For Agatha, you need to heal up so you can set up an X special safely. Her first Gengar knows Nightshade, which will always do 56 damage, way more health than you'll have by this point otherwise. X special activates the badge boost glitch, giving you just enough extra speed to outspeed all of Agatha's Pokemon and ensures you'll one-shot Golbat. The goal with the Lance fight is to get back into Red Bar for the champion fight by letting Gyarados hit you once, then you sweep his whole team. In the champion battle, the only obstacle left is whether Pidgeot attacks you or not while you set up the X accuracy horn drill combo. If he gets off a Sky attack or does enough damage with Wing attack, you lose, but if he goes for Whirlwind or Mirror move, the fight is basically over. You can one-shot every single Pokemon with a combination of 5 horn drills and 1 other move on one of his Pokemon. Well, there it is. That's a basic rundown of how speedrunners have beaten Pokemon Red and Blue in an hour and 45 minutes without major glitches. Shoutouts to Hwangbro and the Pokemon Gen 1 through 3 speedrunning Discord server for helping me figure out how to write this script. What you just watched is wildly different from my first draft and about half as long as well. But eventually I figured out the approach I wanted to take for this video, and I owe them one for talking me through it. It might not be perfect, but if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment letting me know and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. The next games I'll be looking at are New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U, so stay tuned for that. Alright, good night fellas, sleep well.